The Motherwell Times is a weekly newspaper in Lanarkshire, and this is the story of its production. I am the third generation of the Cotter family to be associated with the Motherwell Times since its inception in 1883. In respectfully presenting itself to the people of Motherwell and vicinity, the Motherwell Times needs but few words to justify its appearance and give a reason for its existence. So began the first leader article of the first Motherwell Times on June the 23rd, 1883. Then, as now, the first thing is to present the news to the public, and this is the prime job of the editorial department. Copy, once it has been typed, is checked by the editor, it is paragraphed, subheadings are put in, any early errors are caught and corrected before it goes through to typesetting. In every newspaper, the telephone is an essential part of our organisation. We meet contacts. It extends our contacts over a wider area than we would normally possibly be able to attain. But at the end of the day, the reporter is the important man. He has to go out and find the stories, or she has to go out and get an angle on a particular incident. And all the facts, all the details, have to be typed up into a readable form. Once the story has been set, it is then placed in a page. At the beginning of the week, the paper is planned right from scratch. All the advertisements that have been booked are placed on each page, according to their size and according to their category. Page plans are prepared and numbered, and then passed back up to the editorial department so that they can fit their stories around the advertisements. The placing of news in a paper is not a haphazard exercise. It is carefully planned, and everything must fit. Pictures are an essential part of any newspaper, and to transform the glossy black and white print into the matte photograph that appears in the pages of the paper, quite a considerable technical exercise has to be undertaken. The photograph has to be engraved in metal, broken down into a series of dots, large dots for the black areas, small pinpoint dots for the white, and this will give a continuous scan of the photograph and will give an accurate reproduction on paper. This machine, a German machine, is called a varioclichograph and works on a principle of scanning. The photograph is scanned by a photoelectric cell, and then the impulses are broken down and fed through to a cutting stylus, which engraves the picture line by line on an aluminium plate. When inked, this will then faithfully reproduce the photograph on paper. The screen for newspaper work is 65 dots to the inch. Meanwhile, the copy that has been prepared in the editorial department is sent through to line composing machines to be transformed into lines of type. This is the backbone of the whole paper. The machine casts columns of type on any preset size, or they can be cut on a saw to the determined size to fit the page. As the operator taps the key, a brass mattress falls. These mattresses are assembled in the line of type to the column width, and then they move to another position in the machine where molten metal is squirted into them and a line of type is formed. The mattress, having been used, then continues on its cycle back up to the top of the machine to return into its channel, ready to be used again. Therefore, for the millions of characters that are set each week, for each particular letter, there is only 20 mattresses. Line after line soon forms a column. The column of type is then placed in the long, narrow receptacle, which is called a galley. It is then ready to be proofed for its first checking. Once a galley proof has been taken, it is ready to be placed in the page. As well as the columns of type, headings have to be added, and these are usually hand-set. Using movable type, at this stage, columns of type, headings, photographic blocks, and editorial matter are starting to join together to form the completed page. Each column is checked for tension prior to its final proofing. The completed page is now inked up and proofed again. This will be its second checking. At this stage, any corrections noted on the galley proof will be cross-checked to see that they have been carried out in the page proof. Page proof is then carefully checked, and this is the final checking before the paper actually goes to press. Galley proof corrections are checked, and any final corrections to be made are then marked on the margin of the completed page proof. It then returns to the line composing machines to have the corrections set as marked. These corrections are then taken out to the page, the wrong lines are taken out, and the correct lines put in. Once this operation has been completed, there is no further check on the page. Meanwhile, other pages continue to take shape. Working from the original page plan, photographs, advertisements, and stories all join up just as they were planned. Headings are selected. At this stage, consultation takes place between editorial and compositors to see which heading will fit and which heading will not. And as always, compromises have to be reached. The completed pages are then locked up in a chase. A mould is going to be taken of them. A papier-mâché flong is laid face down, moulding blankets are placed on top, and then the entire chase, blankets and flong, go through a mangle under extreme pressure. The end result is that the type, the pictures, the headings, the advertisements are all forced into this papier-mâché flong, and a faithful reproduction is obtained. It is from this flong that the final printing plate will be eventually cast. And preparation has now to take place to ensure that the flong will stand up to the rigours of casting. Once the flong has been completely packed and prepared, it is then taken down, cut to size, and baked in an oven until it is brick hard. This is so that it will stand up to molten metal at a temperature of 600 degrees, being poured into it in a time of less than 10 seconds. Although these flongs are only basically paper and china clay, as many as 30 plates can be cast off them without any charring or burning taking place. The baked flong is then placed in the casting box, ready to receive the molten metal. The box is locked up. The plunger is pulled and 50 pounds of molten metal flood in. When cooled, the flong is removed and the plate is then cut to size. A quick spray with cold water completes the cooling process so that the plate can be handled. Cast in pairs, the pages of completed type await transfer to the rotary press. Before this can take place, however, minor blemishes have to be cut out and the plate finally prepared to take ink. All the finely dressed plates are then locked onto the rotary press. The machine starts up, a series of inking rollers transfers ink to plate and from plate to paper. Papers roll off the press at 14,000 completed folded copies an hour. This is the moment of truth. The die has been cast. Everything is down in black and white. A final check, and the paper goes forth to meet its public.